A young woman returns to the village she once fled, haunted by her mother's mysterious death and a sacred tree that holds her family's legacy. What she uncovers will challenge everything she thought she knew about sacrifice, poverty, and hope. Sit back and enjoy this powerful journey of loss, discovery, and the fight to protect what truly matters. Ada, a bright and spirited 15-year-old girl growing up in eastern Nigeria, had a personality that could light up a room. She was always full of hope, always smiling, and always dreaming. Her favorite place in the entire village was beneath the shade of the Udala tree, known to many as the African starfruit. It was her sanctuary, a magical spot where the worries of the world melted away. There, she spent countless hours playing and sharing stories with her closest friend, Alex, a young white American boy who had lived in the village for as long as she could remember. His father, Mr. Wilston, had moved to the region years ago to run the new hospital he helped build, a modern facility that stood in stark contrast to the village's time-worn buildings and rusted rooftops. Its gleaming walls felt out of place like a foreign echo in a place forgotten by progress. People often whispered about it, questioning why anyone would choose to build something so grand in the heart of a place the world seemed to have left behind. Ada and Alex were the most unlikely pair, but their bond was stronger than most. While their worlds seemed miles apart, they met at the crossroads of curiosity and trust. Alex was homeschooled by some of the best teachers his father, Mr. Wilston, could bring to the village. The local school, with its crumbling walls and overcrowded classrooms, wasn't what Mr. Wilston wanted for his only son. He wanted more, so he gave Alex the best education money could buy. But Alex didn't keep it all to himself. Every day, just after 3 p.m., he would sneak off to the one place he knew he'd always find Ada, under the Udala tree. There, he would share what he had learned, stories of the world beyond the hills, ideas that sparked dreams, and lessons that made Ada's eyes light up with wonder. Ada's mother was a hard-working farmer, the kind who never shied away from calloused hands and sun-scorched days. She earned her living helping others cultivate their land, preparing it for harvest. But the land where the Udala tree stood was different. It was special. Ada's mother spent more time there than anywhere else, and unlike the other plots she tended, she was allowed to sell the harvest from that land as her own. She even called the Udala tree hers, speaking of it with a mix of pride and affection. It wasn't entirely surprising. The land belonged to Mr. Wilston. Perhaps he had quietly offered it to help a struggling single mother without saying much. No contracts, no announcements, just quiet generosity from a man who saw more than he let on. Every Udala season, when the fruit turned ripe and its flesh soft and milky, Ada would walk through the village with a wide smile and a tray full of the sweet, savory fruit balanced carefully on her head. The sight alone was enough to turn heads. More often than not, she'd sell out before even reaching the market. Everyone knew her mother's Udala tree produced the finest fruit in the entire village, rich, golden, and bursting with flavor. Right on cue, her loyal companion Alex would be waiting at the junction, ready to walk beside her, carrying an extra basket or just keeping her company as they joked and talked their way to the market. He never missed a season, never missed a step. Ada had never known her father, but it didn't trouble her much. Her mother's love and her uncle's steady presence were enough. She often said she was the luckiest girl in the world. Their lives weren't grand, but they were full of laughter, warmth, and music. Every afternoon at the farm, beneath the shade of the Udala tree, they'd sing a song her mother had written, lovingly called the Udala Special. It was their anthem of joy, sung while her mother prepared lunch over a fire built with freshly gathered wood. The scent of stew would fill the air, mixing with the breeze that rustled through the tree's leaves. Life was beautifully simple. What more could a girl ask for? I could have asked for more, Ada whispered, her voice cracking under the weight of grief. I could have asked for good health every morning, to stop the fainting. Maybe then Mama would still be here. She sat curled in a cold metal chair, hands clenched in prayer, eyes fixed on the doors of the emergency unit. Her heart raced as doctors moved quickly, voices urgent but blurred to her ears. It all felt like a bad dream. For a moment, just a fleeting minute, her mother regained consciousness. Her eyes fluttered open, confusion painted across her face. Even in that dazed state, she seemed to recognize where she was, not by sight, but by scent. The sterile, unfamiliar smell of Mr. Wilston's modern hospital walls clashed so sharply with the earthy comfort of their old, aging mud home. When she realized where she was, her voice trembled. Dan, what are we doing here?" "Mama, you collapsed at the farm," Ada said quickly, fighting back tears. No, this is too much." "We can't afford this," her mother murmured. "Don't worry, let me go. I'm okay." She tried to sit up, tried to leave, but her body betrayed her. She collapsed again, this time harder, quieter. She never woke up. In the end, Ada's mother didn't even experience those polished hospital walls for more than 10 minutes. She died before the lab technician had even turned on the lights in his office. No tests were run, no diagnosis confirmed. All they knew was that it looked like a bad case of food poisoning. Ada, just 15 years old, and her uncle Emeka, her mother's younger brother, were left standing in a sterile room with no answers and no money. An autopsy was out of the question. They could barely afford the hospital visit, let alone understand how it had all ended so quickly. Sometimes late at night, Ada would wonder if her mother had simply given up, not to illness, but to the burden of hospital bills, to the cold, choking grip of poverty. She wondered if Mama had looked at those white walls, imagined the debt they represented, and chosen to surrender, not to death, but to despair. Ada often remembered how her mother had never trusted hospitals, never even taken Ada to one, not even when she had fevers or stomach pain. Instead, her mother always turned to herbs, roots steeped in hot water, leaves crushed into pastes, barks boiled for hours. She would say in her deep, resolute Eastern Nigerian voice,
"Adan, these big hospital people are all thieves. They make us pay so much for what God has already given us freely in our lands. I refuse to be a fool."
Back then, Ada believed her. She would sit with her mother on the farm, watching her hands work the earth with care and purpose. They laughed under the sun, their arms muddy and hearts full. Ada loved those moments, planting, weeding, adding manure, carefully choosing which crops to grow together for the best yield. Her mother taught her that farming was like raising a child. Every step was deliberate, every decision meaningful. It wasn't just about planting. It was about nurturing, understanding, and patiently helping something grow into its fullest, healthiest form. And in those quiet, sunlit memories, Ada would smile. But it never lasted long. The memory of her mother's death would rise like a storm, and with it, anger. A deep, silent anger. She never told anyone, not even Uncle Emeka or Alex. But Ada was angry with her mother, angry that she let her pride and distrust of medicine steal her life, angry that she clung so tightly to her beliefs that she couldn't let herself be saved, angry that, in her final moment of fear and stubbornness, she tried to leave the hospital bed and died within minutes, just a breath away from the help she had always refused. The hospital had been the nearest one to the market and, ironically, the most expensive private facility in the village. As fate would have it, that was where they brought her. Ada could only think, "I know your mind couldn't fathom being a fool or spending your money, but look at where that got us." And sometimes in the quiet of the night, when the grief cut deeper than usual, Ada would whisper through clenched teeth, "Who's the fool now, Mama? You left me. You left me alone to figure out this whole world without you. Why, Mama? Why?" Ada never returned to the Udala tree after her mother died. She couldn't. What once stood as a symbol of joy and childhood now felt like a monument to pain. The farm became a ghost of the life she lost, and the tree a haunting reminder of what could never be again. She buried those memories deep, locking them away behind walls of silence and ambition. Uncle Emeka became her guardian, doing his best to guide her through the storm of grief and growing up. But Ada didn't hold on to the happy memories of laughter under the tree or afternoons spent with Alex in the sun. Instead, she clung fiercely to a single driving force: the desperate need to escape the grip of poverty and the quiet cruelty of helplessness that had taken her mother. She excelled in school with a fire that surprised even her teachers. After university, she earned scholarships to prestigious international institutions, an escape route carved from pain and perseverance. By fate or shared purpose, she and Alex ended up pursuing their master's degrees in the same field, learning under the same professors, walking the same halls in a world far from their dusty village paths. Ada still hated the farm, hated the tree, hated the town, but she couldn't forget the plants. There was something in them, something quiet and enduring, that called to her. Despite her best efforts to shut out the past, the memory of nurturing life from the soil, of watching fragile green shoots stretch toward the sun, brought her a strange sense of peace, a flicker of the comfort she once knew. But agriculture felt too close to home, too much of her mother's world, too many shadows of her old life. So Ada chose a different path. She became a botanist. She needed to understand plants, deeply, scientifically, spiritually, to unravel their secrets not just through farming, but through their chemistry, their healing, their purpose. She specialized in phytomedicine, the study of plant-based healing, a subtle reconciliation with the beliefs her mother once held so tightly. Alex was right there beside her. He too had found something special in those childhood days on the farm, studying leaves, roots, and stems with Ada. They poured themselves into their work, not just for knowledge, but for meaning. Together, they pursued answers that perhaps, one day, might heal more than just bodies. Maybe even broken hearts. Ada had been away from home for years. Uncle Emeka, now married with a gentle wife and a bright-eyed son, kept her mother's memory alive. Every year on the anniversary of her passing, he organized a quiet commemoration at her grave, a simple gathering of close friends and family, prayers, and the laying of fresh Udala leaves just as her mother would have liked. But Ada never came. Each year, Uncle Emeka sent invitations, made phone calls, even wrote long emails hoping something might touch her heart. He understood grief, how deeply it could dig its roots, but still, he hoped. Ada always had the perfect excuse: work, research deadlines, a new lecture to prepare, or simply distance. She lived halfway across the world now, buried in labs and lecture halls, chasing discoveries that meant something. It was easier that way. Easier to say she couldn't make the long trip than to admit she couldn't bear to stand over her mother's grave, couldn't bear to face that tree, that soil, that pain. This year marked 10 years since her mother died. 10 years. Uncle Emeka sent another message, this time short and simple. Ada, it's been a decade. Come home, if only this once. We miss you. She misses you. But Ada couldn't reply. She stared at the message for hours, her fingers hovering over the keyboard, heart racing, throat tight. Somewhere inside her, a voice whispered, 10 years is a long time to keep running. And still she said nothing. She closed her laptop, pushed the thought away, and returned to her work, pretending as always that memory didn't ache. One quiet afternoon, Ada and Alex sat side by side in the university library, books and journals spread around them like a fortress of knowledge. They were in the final stages of preparing their master's thesis in phytomedicine, and were deep in discussion about selecting a compelling case study, something unique, rooted in memory, and rich in scientific potential. Just as Ada flipped through an old ethnobotanical reference, Alex's phone buzzed. It was his father, Mr. Wilston. Alex sighed and stepped outside to take the call. When he returned a few minutes later, he dropped his phone onto the table with a soft thud and shook his head. "My dad," he said, half amused. "He wants me to come home again." Ada looked up from her notes, raising an eyebrow. "What's he up to now, buying the moon?" Alex chuckled. "Close. He's launching a mining site on one of his lands. Apparently the town's grown a lot. There's a federal university there now, and they've discovered some rare minerals." "That place really changed, huh?" Ada said with a hint of disbelief. "A university in our village?" "Yup. Paved roads, solar streetlights, a tech hub, even," Alex replied. "My dad practically owns half the town now. He's richer than the local chief at this point." She smirked. He always had a flair for grandeur. "He invited me to the land launch, big ceremony and everything. But I told him I'm too busy," Alex said, shrugging. "Honestly, you know how I feel about going back. It's like there's a version of me stuck in that place I'm not ready to face." Ada nodded slowly, her eyes returning to her notebook. "Yeah, I get that." There was a moment of silence before Alex added, almost casually, "Funny thing, though, he said the land includes the plot with the old Udala tree." Ada froze. Her pen slipped from her hand, landing softly on the open page. Her throat tightened, and the air in the room suddenly felt heavier. "What did you say?" she asked, her voice low. "The Udala tree," Alex repeated, not yet realizing the weight of his words. "You know, the one we used to sit under? It's part of the mining land. They'll probably bulldoze the whole place." Ada said nothing. A dull ache rose in her chest, an ache she thought she'd buried years ago. That tree, that cursed, beloved tree. She had spent a decade avoiding it, trying to forget what it meant, what it witnessed. And now it was about to be erased. Days passed, and Ada found herself haunted by memories the Udala tree had brought back, memories she had tried so hard to bury. Though she resisted the pain, she couldn't imagine losing those fragments of her past forever. The thought of the tree being wiped away along with everything it symbolized was unbearable. Slowly, she convinced Alex to come with her. In just a few weeks, just before the 10th anniversary of her mother's passing and the planned land launch, they returned to their hometown. Uncle Amika's face lit up the moment he saw Ada again. The years apart melted away in his warm embrace, and Ada finally met her little cousin Marvin for the first time. The sight of the boy stirred something tender inside her, a fragile thread reconnecting her to the family she had left behind. The next day, Ada and Alex took a quiet stroll through the village. Ada had only one wish, to see the Udala tree one more time. When they finally stood beneath its sprawling branches, memories came flooding back. They talked about the plants as they used to. Only now, their conversations carried the weight of deeper knowledge and understanding. Uncle Emeka was a skilled farmer, no doubt, but Ada couldn't help silently comparing him to her mother. He lacked the gentle touch, the intuitive connection her mom had with the earth. As she observed the farm, Ada's trained eye caught subtle differences she hadn't noticed before. Some of the weeds growing nearby displayed unusual traits, distinct from the typical properties of similar plants found in other parts of the world. Her curiosity sparked, Ada carefully plucked a few leaves from the Udala tree, placing them into a small bag. With a final lingering glance, she tucked the sample safely away. Together, she and Alex made their way to Mr. Wilston's hospital, the place where so much of their past seemed to collide with their present. At the hospital, Ada and Alex were given a quick tour. The building still held the same magnificent presence it had when Ada was a child, but the weight of sad memories came crashing back. Alongside the anger, a deep ache settled in her chest. She missed her mother terribly. There were moments when they both laughed and loved, now overshadowed by loss. As they passed the records room, a sudden thought struck Ada. She turned to Alex and said quietly, "Can you pull some strings for me? We never really knew why Mama died. Maybe there's still something there." Alex, having grown up sneaking into the records room to escape his nanny, was good friends with Uncle Tony, the records keeper. That friendship was their golden ticket to access anything they needed in that room. Together, they searched until they found the files from the year her mother died. Ada was shocked to see a thick file. After all, her mother had passed before any tests were done, and Mama herself had never been to this hospital before. Sitting down, she began to read. The pages revealed a secret she had never known. Her mother had been battling a terminal illness for years and was undergoing consistent treatment in secret. The revelation hit Ada like a storm. She rushed out of the hospital, heart pounding, to find Uncle Emeka, the one person she trusted to explain. Uncle Emeka's voice was gentle but steady as he spoke. "Your mother wanted to have the best years with you, so she hid the truth of her health. She never wanted you to carry that burden." Ada's voice cracked. But how did she pay for the treatments? Uncle Emeka explained that Ada's mother owned the land where the Udala tree stood. She had leased it to Mr. Wilston for 10 years to cover the costs of her illness. "She thought she had time to pay," he said softly. "All she wanted was for you to know her and to make sure you had someone." But the years went by, and she didn't get better. She couldn't work like she used to. She realized that if she was gone, you wouldn't have anything, not even the land. So she stopped the treatments she couldn't afford and began making herbs for herself. She saved every bit she could for your education. Uncle Emeka looked at Ada with a mix of sorrow and pride. "Mr. Wilston and your mother had a deal. She could keep using the land around the Udala tree for her business to raise money, but if she couldn't pay after 10 years, the land would be lost." Ada stormed into Mr. Wilston's office, her voice sharp and resolute. "You cannot cut down the Udala tree. That tree has stood in my family for generations." Mr. Wilston looked at her calmly, but his tone was firm. "The land where the Udala tree stands is right at the entrance to the mine. It's clear that I need to remove that tree to ensure smooth access to the site deep within the property." Ada's eyes blazed with anger. "You're a cheat. I always wondered why you chose this village to build your world-class hospital, drawing attention from the cities around. You knew, didn't you? You knew this village was rich with natural resources when you first came here with the World Health Organization all those years ago." She took a breath, her voice growing stronger. "Alex told me about your expeditions when you were young, how you wandered through these hills and discovered what lay beneath. And then you never went back home. Instead, you slowly brought up almost half the land in this village." Ada's tone was accusatory, piercing. "You approached desperate families with promises of better health and care, and they sold their ancestral lands to you for next to nothing. Many were sick with incurable illnesses, unable to repay you, but you took their land anyway." She stepped closer, unwavering. "But one thing is certain. You will not take down my mother's Udala tree." Ada's tears fell freely as she whispered, "All these years I thought Mama just gave up on life, leaving me alone, but I was wrong. She lost everything just so she could have a little time with me, and gave her life so I could have a future." She looked down at the Udala leaf she had carefully tucked in her pocket. "Mama was right when she called the Udala tree her own." With renewed determination, Ada pulled out the leaf and examined it closely. Something about it was different. This specimen didn't match any of the ones she had studied or seen before. She frantically searched online, scouring databases and plant catalogs, but nothing matched. Desperate for answers, she called her professor. After a careful description and some pictures sent over, he confirmed, "Ada, You might be onto something huge. This could be a new species or a rare variant that's never been documented before. With only 2 days left before the land launch, Ada knew she needed a plan to stop Mr. Wilston. She called Alex, who shared her anger toward his father and was eager to help. Ada, your mom was right. This land is blessed. Imagine how many more unique species might be hiding out here. Alex's voice was hopeful. If we can get someone to shine a spotlight on this, the media, a scientific journal, anything to show the world the unique biodiversity of this place, then maybe we can stop the destruction. Ada nodded, the weight of the task settling on her shoulders but fueled by a powerful hope. We have to act fast. This isn't just about a tree anymore. It's about preserving a whole legacy. Ada wasted no time. She reached out to local and international media, sharing her discovery, the history of the Udala tree, and the threat posed by the mining project. News outlets, environmental activists, and botanists quickly caught wind of the story. By the break of dawn the next day, the once quiet village buzzed with the sounds of cameras, reporters, and curious visitors from around the world, all eager to witness the unique beauty of the Udala tree and the rich biodiversity of the land. The Ministry of Forestry and Wildlife urgently contacted Ada, requesting detailed information about the mining plans and their potential environmental impact. Ada shared her research, her mother's legacy, and the urgent need to protect the land from irreversible damage. Human rights organizations also stepped in, concerned about the families who had been displaced or coerced into selling their ancestral lands. They sought Ada's guidance on how to advocate for the community's rights and restore ownership. The uproar grew louder each hour. Mr. Wilston found himself overwhelmed by mounting lawsuits from affected families and growing public pressure. His plans for the mine were stalled indefinitely, drowned out by the wave of support rallying behind Ada and her cause. What started as a personal mission had ignited a powerful movement, one that was not only saving a tree, but awakening an entire community's voice. The discovery of the Udala tree as a new species was officially confirmed by the botanical community. Honoring her mother's memory and the joyful melody that had once comforted them, Ada named the species Udalarilus specialis, inspired by the beloved Udala special song. Scientists found that Udalarilus specialis held remarkable medicinal properties, far surpassing those of the common African star apple tree, offering new hope for natural remedies and health benefits. For her final master's case study, Ada documented everything about Udalarilus specialis, its discovery, its unique properties, and its significance to her family and community. Driven by her passion and commitment to her roots, Ada founded a research institute in her hometown dedicated to studying local plant species and promoting sustainable agriculture. The institute quickly became a beacon of hope, education, and innovation for the entire region. Though she had spent years away, Ada made a point to visit her mother's grave regularly. She ensured the area was always surrounded by thriving plants, carefully selected and tended, just as her mother would have wanted. At last, Ada truly understood her mother's words. God had freely given them so much in their land. And now, through Ada's love, knowledge, and determination, that gift would flourish for generations to come.